would say if you could find yourself an older entrepreneur to listen, and there are agencies like that, there are organizations like that. I never joined one, and maybe
Mm,
I would have been benefited had had I joined one of those early on, where you can have people who have experience listen to what you're struggling with and make suggestions. I was lucky. I had a person who was a business consultant, and she wasn't in particular. She was a human resource officer at Accenture, and she gave me advice, and her advice really helped when she said you've got to let go of this person and find
yeah.
somebody new. I resisted, and resisted, and then I did it, and it really made all the difference.
Alrighty. Welcome to another episode of the Service Call Podcast. We are really excited about our guest on the show today. I'm going to let him introduce himself fully, but today we have Mitch Newman. He is the founder of a design firm in Chicago called Habitar Design. We're going to let him talk about the origin story here, but really excited to have you on, Mitch. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. I'm Mitch Newman, and we have Habitar Design, which is one of the lead top interior designers in Chicago. And we also have a construction company called Stratagem Construction. And we're a little unique in the marketplace in that we provide an interior design firm which can do interior design and somebody else can build it, and vice versa. We can do construction and somebody else can design it, but we provide both those sides.
Super dynamic. That's really cool that you can provide those both of those solutions, and it gives you multiple revenue streams, right? That's really smart. What I would love to do is, in starting out here, is really understand how you got started in this trade and in this industry. Looking at your background, you have a really uniquely impressive background. Medical professional. We've studied abroad. Would love to hear about your story, how you got into this business.
Yeah, well, a little bit of it is accidental. As you know from my history, I was physician, and then I dropped out of being a physician, and I lived abroad for 5 years in Germany and in Egypt, and then I came back, and I wanted to be a writer, and so I was a writer for a number of years. Even started a theater company, or was became the artistic director of a theater company, and eventually I was almost broke. So at that point, I took some money that I inherited, and I went and built a building. And my family had been in construction and general contracting, so they knew something about it. And I built a building, and then after that, I built another building. And I got into the interior. I got into development, and I was always very heavily focused on design because I didn't want to build the same thing as everybody else built. I wanted to differentiate myself. And then in 2008, development crashed with the economy, and I thought, everybody who was in development had to figure out what they wanted to do. And what I did is I started the interior design firm on its own, and then quickly realized that to be successful, I had to have the construction wing to it because a lot more money was made in construction than in design, and that gave me a unique advantage over my competition. And so during the whole recession, we were growing from the very beginning. We were growing every year by 30%. Of course, 30% of very little is pretty small. And it was pretty small for the first couple of years.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's an amazing story and really cool. I can imagine it felt a little nerve wracking to go in and take that big leap and just let's go build a building. We have some construction background. Let's take a little risk and let's do this thing.
I was eager because I was a writer, so I thought I'm going to build one building. My family had been building since I was a kid. I used to go in the buildings, down the street and walk into them when my father was doing construction. But I just thought, I'm going to build a building, kind of experience what the rest of my family has experienced, and then I'm going to write about it. But it, kind of worked out a little differently.
I love it. And it's, 2008, we talked to a lot of people in this space and it was a very tough time for a lot of businesses. It's really cool to hear your story where you were able to differentiate yourself a little bit within the market and really differentiate yourself against your competitors. I'm curious, right? When did that start to, take things to the next level for you? Obviously there was some rebuilding happening after 2008. What was the turning point that really took you to the next level?
Thing is the general contracting that I did, even though it was very focused on design and gave me a very special product that was profitable because it was different than all my competition. So that was fantastic. When I went into doing interiors for other people, it's an entirely different business. Where when you're when you're doing real estate development, you have realtors selling your stuff. There's no reason to have marketing. You have a very tiny staff, and I was actually interested in running a company and learning what it was like to run a company. So for me, that was in itself something that was a goal, to just be able to run a company and grow from it and learn a whole bunch of new things. And so what you do when you start out from scratch and really have no experience is you just start learning. You start, trying to get through the beginning of it. And the biggest thing is actually surviving the very beginning, because at the beginning you don't know anything. You don't know how it works. You don't have any connections. You don't have a reputation. And in the design business, without a lot of things to show to people, it's hard to hook a new client. But I was lucky. I talked to some people. One of them was a cousin of mine, who said, you got to get onto Angie's List, and somebody else who talked about SEO, who said you got to get your SEO going, and it was at the beginning of that, and so we did, and then slowly, slowly, and I'd say we went about 4 or 6 months where every week I kept watching the company's bank account get smaller, and I was like kind of plotting when I would actually run out of any all money.
Yep.
And every week I would say, I'm going to work harder. I'm going to redouble my efforts, and I'm going to do more. And I came up with lots of little things. Like I used to go and put those little frames that show pictures, and I got local um, cleaning stores, dry cleaners, to let me put those in their stores, and I would hook up a few clients from those things. So I was trying everything, and then all of a sudden I hooked a real client that was like a $200,000 client, and then suddenly I had something to show, and it turned around.
Love it. I love the scrappiness. It's interesting, and I'm sure you're seeing this too. There's this transfer of wealth happening, right? In this space where we're seeing a lot of older generation founders that are getting ready to either sell their businesses, they want to retire, they want to go to the beach and play golf, and they want to retire. So we have new ownership, new entrepreneurs coming into the space, going, how the heck do I do this? How do I build this business? It's amazing how you knew you had to focus on your brand, right? We can't work on our business or grow this thing unless we have customers. And so you started looking at every other option. SEO was probably a new language for you, all these new technology acronyms. I'm curious, how important has building your brand? You were a general contractor, now you have a team, you have a beautiful brand. How important has building your brand and finding new customers digitally been for you in your business? Has it helped you scale?
It's been everything, to tell you the truth. I had somebody suggest to me years ago, and this is, when I was much younger. He said, always sell quality. That's the most important thing, and 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 that's what I focused on, just being the best. Taking care of our clients no matter what, but also just making sure what I delivered was just on the highest level, and kind of the Marshall Fields approach or Nordstrom's approach. You just like, we're going to give you the best service, the best quality, the best warranty. You'll never ever worry, but you have to pay more. And so that was a good model. I mean, it took us a little while to get there, but the reason it's a good model is that in times of economic trouble, especially now with this, there's the wealthy class and there's everybody else. We're serving the wealthy class, so we're not suffering as much as a lot of companies are right now with this, impending recession.
Oh, it's really smart to find your niche too. It's to find that customer subset that really is going to deliver long term value, and then exactly what how do we deliver it? It's all about quality. It's about the highest end experience, and those customers are going to pay premiums for that, and then we can continually repeat. I love that. When we start to grow businesses, right, it's more problems occur. Right at the beginning, we're trying to solve one problem. It feels like five are created every problem we solve. As we start to scale, right, there's more processes, more people. When do you start balancing the in the field work versus working on your business, right? I think a lot of owners getting to that point where they want to get out of the field, they want to start building. How do you find that balance? When do you know it's time to take that leap or that next step?
Yeah. Well, I was always, like I'm on the construction side because I became a general contractor while I was building, when I was doing in development. I was never on the design side, but I was managing the designers and helping them out. And I was jumping from both, I was doing both halves of the business. And at the beginning, everything is on a sheet of paper and it's all chaotic, and there's no way to explain to anybody what happens. It's all in your head, and you're sort of inventing it each time you go around. And so to really be successful, and a lot of the ideas that really helped me become successful came from my staff. They came from other entrepreneurs. Other people would give me suggestions. I had one person who was just phenomenal in the suggestion she gave me. But what really changed eventually is we went from keeping everything on a spreadsheet, like an Excel spreadsheet, to flipping over to what we use smart sheets. And it's a database management spreadsheet. And from the very early on in this company, I was trying to figure out how to manage my data. Like I had no idea, like, what did I really need? And then finally, over the years, you begin to when you begin to understand your processes. Now you begin to use the database management the right way, and you keep improving until finally you have a system where everything has its place, and you can teach everybody. You can teach your staff, hey, this is how we do it, and that's what allows you to expand and get from 3 or 5 employees up to say 15, which is where we're at right now.
Love that. That's phenomenal. It's you at some point, right? You don't have enough data to learn from, but when you start being able to aggregate the it tells such a great story for founders and for business owners on how where they need to improve, where they need to double down, where they need to invest more. How can their operations be more efficient? So I love that you were able to adapt that, and then it helps you continue to scale. Right? We know we're doing these things really well. We can rinse, repeat, and grow. I think that's phenomenal. I'm curious in your business, right? We talk to again a lot of entrepreneurs, and in their day-to-day processes are very manual or time consuming. A lot of owners are doing the same things over and over again. I'm curious, within your business, maybe within your technology, what are things that are super repetitive that you're seeing, that your staff has to do or you have to do?
We have a way, like, the way we do our business is the designers will put the design together, get that signed off by the client, and then we'll send it over to the bidding department. And the bidding department has to take this design and break it into a bunch of line items on a spreadsheet, because each line item is going to be, hey, 3 outlets go in, four J boxes come out, and we just break the whole thing down. So every single process that we're doing has a line item that we can track, and also a line item that we can price. So that portion of going from that that design document to the to a spreadsheet is one of the most time consuming things that we do, and one of the hardest things we do, because it takes so much knowledge to be able to do it. And yet there are certain parts of it, like we use Bluebeam, you might be familiar with that, where you can take a PDF and you can measure everything. So we just measure the cabinets, and then it'll give you a number at the bottom and tell you how many square feet a cabinet, which is how we price them. And you can, if you're technologically savvy enough, and we're not quite entirely there, you can speed it up by having everything categorized the right way, and you might even just automatically be able to transfer it over to your spreadsheet. But we're not there yet. So we we'd like to get, if we could manage that more efficiently, that would really help.
Well, I think that's awesome that you brought that up, and that's where a lot of people are going. Every business is going. Is how can we be more efficient? Technology is no longer a nice to have; it is a must have. It's just where do we adopt it? And we're going to shift a little bit to this crazy buzzword some people are scared of, some people love is AI. Right? We all use it. Some people use ChatGPT, some people don't. It's all we're hearing when we turn on a football game is AI marketing and all these things. I'm curious your stance, or if you've thought about AI when it comes to your two different businesses.
I think it's most, that thing that I just told you about, like converting these drawings uh, into a spreadsheet. Anything that we could do with AI, because basically we have somebody who's manually recognizing, hey, this is a cabinet, and this is the area of it. This is a countertop, and this is the area of it. I mean, if you could get AI advanced enough to be able to do that for yourself and break it into what it has to be, like price that up for you automatically. Of course, it would have to be pretty accurate because you can't you can't leave out a cabinet or whatever. But it might be good enough if it just told you what it does and does not understand, so you could just fix the problems. So
Yeah.
that would be extremely helpful.
That's cool. Yeah, it's interesting. AI is, people are using it for various different, ways and use cases. Where we're seeing the most value is these repetitive tasks. Let AI do the work for you so your teams and your people can focus on high value, high priority positions or other, parts of the business. And there's a lot of areas to uncover there. That's really cool. I'm curious, a lot of owners as well that we talk to are really trying to figure out how to stop juggling a bunch of different systems that don't talk to each other. Is that something you experience at your company, whether it's QuickBooks or Invoice, whatever it is? I'm curious.
Yeah, that's interesting. We're used to using a bunch of different systems. I told you we use Bluebeam. We use OneNote, which is a Microsoft system. We use Smartsheets. We use QuickBooks. So, and they don't really talk to each other, but the way we do it, the way we use our systems, it's not like a lot of time spent. I mean, you have to talk to my bookkeeper. Maybe she'll have a different opinion, but we do have a full-time bookkeeper, or I'd say 28 hours a week. And of course, but she does more than just enter data. I mean, she's doing a lot to actually collect all the bills and keep everything organized around here. So they don't talk to each other, but they're all pretty interactive, you know.
And your team's process is really dialed from what it sounds. And I'm sure that took time to figure out how to dial that in. It sounds like the way information is transferred and roles are transferred throughout the customer journey, it seems really dialed in. I'm sure that's a big lesson too. A lot of our customers and guests are really trying to find that sweet spot of balancing technology and human process to provide ultimately a great experience for your customer.
I absolutely agree. I mean, you just don't, at the beginning when you start, you just don't know what you don't know. You don't know how the shape of it ought to be. And there's nobody who really can come and tell it to you so easily. At least I didn't meet that person yet who said, it's like this. But over time, if you keep paying attention, and we've been in business since 2008 in this business, took that long to, I'd say it took a good 15 years before we really had our systems down and understood when a piece of information comes in, and I always say this to my staff, when a piece of information comes in, it's got a place. You got to put it in a place where it's going to be lost, especially if it needs follow up. And in our company, we don't even we really don't use the telephone, and we don't send emails to each other. We communicate over our database management system, because if you do, then everybody sees what's going on, not just two
Correct.
people on the phone.
I love it. I love it. That's an awesome story. I'm curious, shifting gears back to the to your customers. That's what I love to talk about is your customers and in the I think just consumers in general, me in general, we've changed. Our expectations have changed a lot, right? I think platforms like DoorDash and Amazon and Netflix, we have what we want at our fingertips and we expect things quicker. We expect communication with businesses quicker. We expect personalized experiences. What shifts have you noticed with your customer subset, right? Coming in, designing kitchens and beautiful bathrooms. Have you seen a change in your customers or your consumers in the last 10 years?
Well, tell me about like what change you're talking about. Like, are they more open to email communication, or what do you mean specifically?
Yeah. How are you attracting new customers? Is it more digital channels? How are they trying to interact with you on, when they come to Habitar? Are they trying to send you emails? Are they trying to chat with you? Social media is at a presence for you. I'm curious how you're really communicating and attracting new
Yeah.
customers.
Well, it definitely, social media is huge. You got to have social media because it uses not necessarily to acquire new clients, but once you've got people on your social media, it keeps reminding them. So, some years down the line, or when their cousin Nancy decides she needs to have a kitchen because she's been following you, she's like, "Oh, I know somebody actually who's very good," because you're in their mind. If you fall out of their mind, forget about it. They might not have an idea about who to send their cousin to. And so we do most of our customers, I'd say maybe 40 or 50% of our customers find us online. They find us from reviews. They might find us through a search. They might find us through a Google ad that we do. And then the other half of them probably are referrals. And they might come from real estate agents, from other clients, and a huge number of our clients are repeat.
I love it. Are you asking for referrals after jobs are done? Is that are you guys sending out an email? Thank you for so much. We'd love for you to leave a review if you know anybody
Well,
that would.
we don't wait to the end. We
I love it.
start from the very beginning.
I love it.
So in our process, from the very first moment we talk to you after you call us, we tell you, hey, we tell you about the whole process of how this is going to work, and at the end, we say to them this: look, if you ever have an issue, just reach out to me or my partner. Everybody who works here is going to take care of you. They work cleanly. They're going to be respectful. They're great people, and they're here to make you happy. But if something goes wrong, because sometimes there's miscommunication, reach out to us, and we're going to fix it. And we can do that 99% of the time because we want you to be as happy as everybody else who gave us a 5-star review, and we want you at the end to give us a 5-star review and tell everyone that we're the best designers and builders on the planet. So they they think, oh my God, I went to these guys because they had 5-star reviews and they want to give me that same service. I'm all in. So when we finally ask them, can you give us a review? They're like, yeah, they heard about it before. Of course, we've got to be, on top
It's
of it,
incredible.
keep it
It's
good.
incredible. If somebody's priming me for a review and they're providing, that's how I found them. It's a big part of your business is contract. You're gonna look at reviews and previous customers' experiences, right? If you're talking about how that really is important to you and you're gonna provide the service to live up to those expectations, at the end of our journey together, I for sure am gonna want to leave you a review, right? And that shifts because I'll go to a store, I'll interact with somebody. They're like, "Oh, leave us a review," right? And it just was out of nowhere. Probably not going to do it, right? Unless it was a poor experience. So I love how you're talking about that. I love how you're differentiating yourself. We are the best. You're going to love our experience. Everybody in our organization, we expect the same thing from them to deliver. I love that you're doing that. That's phenomenal. You mentioned um, Google Ads. You guys are running Google Ads. Are you guys doing any social media ads today?
We don't do social media ads. We didn't have good success with it, but we do run Google ads, and we do feel like it's working.
Love it. Love it. And do you use an agency for your advertising and brand?
We have a fellow, he's in Italy,
Nice.
Matteo, and we meet with him every couple of weeks, and he gives us the rundown. So he's working from Italy. That's how things are now. Our SEO guy is in Hawaii, and sometimes, and my partner is in New York. So you can be very remote and still get your job done. So he does it, and he kind of goes through all the statistics for us and tells us what we should do next.
I love it. I think that's big advice we give to our customers is let's find experts that can help you do things that you don't know how to do. Let's not guess. This is your brand. Let's use professionals that know exactly what they're doing to drive the right customer to you. That's phenomenal. All right. I'm curious, have we started thinking about what the next phase of the business is? Sounds like we're up to 15 employees, really awesome firm in Chicago. What's the future look like? What does growth look like for Habitar?
Well, growth is. I'll tell you the first thing is I'm nearly to the point of retirement. I'm actually should have retired a couple of years ago, and the reason I'm stuck around while I'm still here is because I'm training the next generation to take over. I've got my partner, and she's taking over, and it's a transition because we do things a little differently than everybody else, so it's not as easy as plug and play to get new people in here. So we're going to continue our transition until I have all my functions handled by somebody else. And then we will probably grow just a little bit. We could probably add a designer. I think we're pretty well staffed in the field. I don't want to get too big and unwieldy, but we'll have to see. We got we got 3 full-time staff teams out doing construction, a manager of them, and we have our own wood shop. So that's comfortable. And if we need more people, we probably will take them in as subs, trusted subs. We have some trusted subs. So we feel we can find subs where they have great quality of work and we can feel comfortable about them. We might expand that way. So I can imagine it would grow from here. But right now we're sort of comfortable. and we have to find a way of doing it without making it too difficult for
Yep.
my staff.
I love it. Sustainable growth and smart growth. Yep. A lot of companies go in and they try and grow too aggressively. They may not have the processes or the people in place. So it sounds like, good for you. We get to retire soon. That's awesome. Hope you get to enjoy that. But it's about, if this is your baby and you want to make sure your team is set up for success moving forward. Love it.
Exactly.
All right. If you were to predict, you've been in this space a long time, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, what are the top performing design and construction companies going to be doing differently from they are now?
That's a good question. I think that, it depends what AI does. I mean, first of all, I think we're a model for what's really effective. The one of my new designers, um, who came from another really great company, said what's different about us is that when you sign up with us, you're only signing up for design. In the end, if once you're happy with design, you could go to any construction company. Where with a lot of places, you're signing up for the whole you know shebang. You're doing everything, which is a much bigger commitment. So I think there might be more companies that kind of split it up like me, like ours. We're a design and then build versus a design build.
Like
Um,
it.
and then I think also design, AI is changing and it's going to be a bigger element of design. And so the question is, what parts of our work is it going to take over? And it might take over. I mean, we already use the internet a lot when the clients are looking for photos to find out what they like. So maybe that will improve, and maybe AI will will provide an easier route to get more and more images for you, or even begin to show you some you know cursory designs. I
Right.
don't think you'll ever replace the designers, because design is very personal. It's not just automatic. It's got to really be tailored to the human being, and it's part of a much huger story about how they want to live their life. So the question is, what can our designers do to use AI effectively? And so I imagine it's going to play a role in helping the designers do their work more efficiently.
Agree. It's again, it's that balance of human and technology, right? And like it may be more tailored, like we were talking about the bidding process. Can we automate the repetitive, you know, parts of the job so designers can focus on the feel and the look with the customer? Can we get some of the busy work done so again we can focus on the textures and the things that really matter when you're designing something? I'm moving into a new home in Wednesday on Wednesday. We close on Wednesday. The design process is so stressful. So designers are so important. I couldn't just plug it into a machine and say, I want a pretty house, right? I need to understand and feel. So I think that's a phenomenal prediction. I think that's a great balance you're striking with your team. All right. Last question, kind of a cheesy one, Mitch. If you could go back, give your younger self, whether you're in Germany or Egypt, one piece of advice, maybe as you're starting the business, before you start scaling your business, what's advice you would give yourself as a young entrepreneur?
I would say if you could find yourself an older entrepreneur to listen, and there are agencies like that, there are organizations like that. I never joined one, and maybe I would have been benefited had I joined one of those early on, where you can have people who have experience listen to what you're struggling with and make suggestions. I was lucky. I had a person who was a business consultant, and she wasn't in particular. She was a human resource officer at Accenture, and she gave me advice, and her advice really helped when she said you've got to let go of this person and find somebody new. I resisted, and then I did it, and it really made all the difference. Having somebody with experience who's been in your position run a business somewhat similar to yours, but doesn't have to be exactly your business, because a lot of good advice comes from other people who could just say, like, this is how I do an interview. This is how I hire an employee. So if you can get that, they can look at what you're doing and give you advice. Hopefully it's a mentor situation and doesn't even cost you anything. But that's what I would say. If you could find the right person, that would help so much.
Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't think you know everything. I think that's a big thing. I think when it's your business and your baby, you're like, nobody else can understand what I'm dealing with. There's a lot of very successful entrepreneurs and people who have done similar things. Like you said, it doesn't need to be the same exact business or model, but just take advice. This has been awesome, and I think this is really going to resonate with a lot of our owners. You have such an incredible story and how you've grown and how you've started. Just to summarize a couple key things, I think adapting your business and finding a niche, really specializing in you for, for example, high end interiors, know who your customer are, double down on that experience. Also differentiating and creating a dynamic revenue stream. You have two parts of your business. You can serve customers both ways or individually. That really sets yourself up for success. Brand is everything. It's all focused on your brand, whether it's digitally, in person, how to, and the experience your customers are going to get when they talk to you. I love that you bring up reviews on your first interaction. They set the expectation that they're going to be in good hands. And then adapt with technology. Continue to adapt. Continue to understand where it's going to help our business, help each phase of our business in the customer journey. I think these are all awesome lessons. Anything that I'm missing here? Any other
No,
closing
no,
thoughts?
it's really excellent. But one thing I tell my staff, because we have people calling us all the time for service, and I say a win is when you help a person. It doesn't mean a sale. So they come in the door and they need help on something, and that their job is not for you, but you give them a lead, you connect them with somebody, and give them advice and put them in the right direction, and that's a win. And that keeps you as a salesperson, because I do the sales around here, happy. You made somebody, you improved somebody's life. You're happy about it. And the fact that you didn't make a sale for the first 3 days of the week, no big deal, because you have success in what you're doing. And so that attitude, I think having that positive attitude just helps you suddenly attract more people because you're very positive.
For sure. The difference in organizations that are customer obsessed versus those who aren't is tangible. And it turns out they tend to be more successful. So I love that closing remark. Mitch, this was awesome, and I appreciate you taking the time with us.
Thank you. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you for having us on.
Absolutely.